Hello, everybody. Today, we bring you the sad news of this lawsuit on April 29th. Block height 520,451. Roger is very sued. And the whole cast today is going to talk about that. So what do you have to say about that, Mr. Rick, before we really get rolling?
Oh man, I kind of expected it at a certain point in all this. So yeah, I mean, had my own little experience with it. We can get into that here in a little bit. But what do you think, Janine?
I was searching and failed to find an appropriate biblical passage about Jesus and lawyers, so I will get back to you on that.
How about you, Acnix?
Oh man, I've just been waiting for this to happen. Paying attention to the Bitcoin.com wallet reviews and just watching people just get obliterated. It's been tragic to say the least.
Yes, so tragic. I mean, like, just who would have thought that somebody out there just lying through their teeth day in, day out, might have some consequences fly at them. It's just unthinkable.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, we hear the FUD for a lot, but eventually whenever you start, pushing out something where people are getting really hurt, don't expect some blowback at some point.
Mm-hmm. So I guess to play switcheroo with the topics, I'm going to get into something a little unrelated. Janine has another story after that, kind of tangentially related. And then after that, Rick will dive into the details of this. But to segue completely away from that initial grazing of a topic, I'm pretty sure everybody out there has to have seen this MIT article, Let's Destroy Bitcoin, by now. But I kind of wanted to go through it just because, like, this really just boggled my mind. Like, I really can't look at MIT the same way after just seeing how simplistic this was.
Oh, so that's a big coincidence because I literally just added another Morgan Peck article to the news desk like 10 minutes ago. So she's going to boggle our mind twice today.
Wow.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't think I should speak to that, though, or I think the SJWs usually get mad. I'll leave that next one to you if I'm thinking of the right one. But yeah, so there's pretty much three different possible ways to destroy Bitcoin that they go over. And, like, to your average person out there, I think all of these would kind of, I don't know, like, maybe scare them a little bit if they were already a Bitcoin supporter, or make them start rethinking, support of Bitcoin if they weren't. But when you really drill into all of them, two of them are just kind of outright ridiculous. And the last one is really, like, it's not so ridiculous in the abstract concept, but just the actual mechanics behind making it a reality are a lot more difficult than the article kind of paints it. But in the first one, they pretty much discuss, like, a government takeover or a central bank issued digital currency kind of just dominating over Bitcoin. And I mean, like, this is kind of laughable for a whole multitude of reasons. I mean, first of all, even to the libertarians or the non-libertarians out there, like, this is still, like, the central bank in control of the monetary supply. And, it's not really just Bitcoin, over the past 10 years that has really been waking people up to just, like, how our banking system works and how the people in control of that kind of use that to exert control over the finances and savings of many people. Like, I mean, there's, the whole Illuminati conspiracy theories, like, people realizing, like, yes, the Rothschilds are real people. And there's just this kind of viral, like, popular culture like awakening, I guess you could say, of people really starting to go like, oh, how does that thing that I dance around my entire life trying to earn more of really work? And so like just on that kind of visceral level, I think, you know, they're way overestimating the willingness of people to just jump into a cryptocurrency that a central bank would establish. And then to kind of get into like the more like, you know, mechanical problems with this is our entire economy is dominated by financial services like banks, investment firms, and, you know, especially in the case of retail banks, like they make their money loaning out deposits. Like they take your money in, they loan it out and pay you the interest rates, or very potentially soon you will pay them negative interest rates to do this, and issue more money. And they have legally mandated deposit requirements to, you know, meet a threshold versus how much money they're actually issuing. And in a world where you have a central bank just kind of directly issuing its own cryptocurrency, that cuts all of these banks out of that. Like it and with how dominant financial services are in the United States economy and in a lot of Western economies, like the idea that a central bank can kind of cut them out of currency issuing, of payment processing, and not have disastrous consequences for the economy at large is ridiculous. I mean, like that's just, it's not going to happen, because like once you start moving down that road, like that just starts having systemic consequences for how money flows, how money is issued, like the kind of business and employment like opportunities that creates. That it's like you can't just snap your finger as a central bank and just do this without a shit ton of consequences and complications to worry about. And so I was like really kind of disappointed at how they put this out there as like a potential, we're going to kill Bitcoin like this. And it's not that simple at all. And then, you know, to kind of move on to the second one, they're discussing Facebook hijacking Bitcoin. And like the logic, it's kind of there, but it's still missing like the important nuances. And their rationale is that if Facebook could like onboard like all 2 billion of their users and get them using Facebook software, like hooking up to a Facebook node, that just puts them in control of Bitcoin. And like I believe the exact language was something like convince like the miners and users to come along, but that's not how this works. Like
well, I think both these things touch on Gresham's law. Like, you know, like the Gresham's law here says good money will push out bad money, and they're depending on bad money. They're depending on stuff that has an inherent lack of trust because of the inability to view how it works, how it's structured, very simply.
Well, no, it's the logic that it has nothing to do with the number of people. It's the money. Like you could have 2 billion people overnight start using like Facebook Bitcoin, hooking up through Facebook software. But if there's still a minority of the amount of Bitcoins over there, like you're going to have that coin dumped into oblivion. It's not
absolutely
going to be the most profitable thing for miners to mine. And like people are going to move over to Bitcoin proper because that's where the value is. And I mean, like it just, like I very much do think it's a real possibility that Facebook tries to integrate with Bitcoin in the long term. But like it's not as simple as like, oh, we set up Bitcoin wallets for our users and then they're in control of Bitcoin, because that's not going to just magically take the majority of the supply and put it in their control. And then kind of the last one, that like this is kind of the more reasonable one, and like this is kind of the dynamic that a lot of people looking at and thinking about how some form of digital cash would evolve, like back in the 90s, like really early 2000s, thought things would work, is you would just have like tokenized representations of things like the S&P, Like you would have like tokenized Apple stocks, like Microsoft stocks, like, you know, slivers of the S&P, and you would actually be trading tokenized, you know, securities essentially as money, and have the kind of network and framework to just have those interoperable. And, you know, have, like, if you want to go spend a sliver of an Apple stock somewhere, but they don't take it, have the services to kind of match you with somebody that has something they do take, and then like middleman and organize that trade. And I mean, yeah, economically speaking, like that is a possible way that things could go. But the technical complexity of organizing all of that is insane. And really, at the end of the day, you can't concretely guarantee that something like that would work without having just like trust sharded and shattered all over the place, and no real foundational system that this is all like taking place on to ensure like balances are where they're supposed to be. People who own things are supposed to own things, are the ones who own them. And that really kind of brings us full circle back to, well, it would need one unified platform. Well, Bitcoin. It would need an incentive to continue moving forward, which requires its own native token, you know, Bitcoin. And I mean, like when you really kind of, you know, look at these three scenarios and really dig into the nuances of how this actually works, it's like, no, like the first two are frankly ridiculous. And the third one, like there are all kinds of complications that make it not as simple as, ooh, everybody just switches over to something like this. And I mean, it's, you know, I'm really kind of disappointed in MIT for publishing this, as if it's like some serious insight into where the space could be going in the long term. And I know I just kind of been a long ramble breaking this thing down, but, you know, I really kind of wanted to just like go over, like, because I feel like this is where the mainstream media is really going to try and push over the next like year or two. They're going to take all of these nonsense, like malformed ideas of where else besides Bitcoin the space can go in the long term that we've heard over the years, and just keep repeating them to a larger, more uninformed audience. And like, this is the kind of stuff that we really need to get in front of and really be like systematic in how we break down and explain like the ridiculousness behind all of this, because like people need to understand the things they're interacting with for them to actually, you know, evolve properly. Like with an incentive system, you need people to be properly incentivized, or the action you want to see out of them isn't going to materialize.
Yeah, man, to be honest, like I was kind of, I don't know, like MIT and like those guys, like they've always kind of, yeah, like been like, okay, these guys are smart and it's, they know what they're doing. And I mean, like, it is disappointing. I saw something not too long before this where they had like, you know, they had Charles Hoskinson over there for Cardano and everything, and everybody was giving him high praise on that sort of stuff. But like, to be honest, like it's kind of like a symptom of like a greater problem with all these, you know, institutions and legacy places that people come from. It's like it serves them best to teach it this direction, because this is the direction that things have been going for a long time, and this is the direction where it keeps the, you know, the boat on course as far as like not having that solid number to go to at a base. And I don't know, it's just like you're saying, it's a great, I mean, like you're saying, it's disappointing for someone like us to see to see such a technical institution approach it like this, but it does sort of sound like, you know, it's cloudy enough to where you could definitely get people scared about it. And I mean, you know, if anything, I imagine they would just want to try and keep the price down to accumulate themselves, or, you know, but like not MIT, but the government, you know, I mean, like at large. And yeah, it's just one of these problems I'm seeing at multiple places along the way when it comes to institutions trying to, you know, teach something. They want to teach the way that it is business as usual, even though like we're looking at something that is going to change that. It's like they want to go along that narrative to compare it to and to try and attack it. And, you know, it, yeah, these are definitely like cloudy arguments towards people that don't have that great of understanding of like all the different ways that Bitcoin kind of comes to consensus. And it's just, yeah, like you're saying, it's disappointing to see, but it's not too surprising coming out of a legacy system, right?
And I mean, it just, like, it just sucks because it's like, you know, all people look to like all kinds of these public institutions that they perceive as like authorities on different subject matters to kind of get their answers or their opinions for things. But when you really like step back and look at the scope and scale of the incentives involved with something like Bitcoin, like all of these publicly funded institutions are funded by the exact actors who are going to want to do anything they possibly can to stop something like Bitcoin from continuing to grow and continuing to integrate into the world economy, because it's a direct threat to their control over those systems.
Yeah, I guess they could be, you know, not trying to accumulate, but trying to push enough FUD to where people will jump onto, you know, some other system that's, I guess, less complicated or something, to where they don't feel like that. I don't know, man. It's one of those things where I feel like, you know, I really hate saying like the market learns through like, you know, terrible tragedies, like people just losing a bunch of value and stuff. But it just feels like, you know, maybe needs to be, you know, and it's like we've already had the Equifax hack, and like, you know, everybody's social security number is pretty much up for grabs. It's hard to say like what is that exactly going to do it to wake people up to these sort of problems, where they need to be thinking about other like areas than just their little focal points and how this all plays together. But yeah, it's not surprising. Like they might be trying to actually, you know, keep the Bitcoin network down from growing at all. But yeah, I don't know. It's ridiculous. Hopefully, you know, more people that are in the system, really, not more people, but the people. I imagine there's a bunch of people coming to, you know, YouTube for information, and they're going to do their own research, even though they're at MIT. It's I hang out with some of these CU blockchain guys, and it's like there's a good bit of like, you know, misunderstandings towards some of the way that Bitcoin works, but you know, there's one or two guys in there that definitely know what the hell they're doing. So I mean, like, you know, there's a couple guys in there that know what they're doing, and you know, this is like a new way of doing things. So hopefully we'll get the right people in the right places, and they'll understand what we're doing, and you know, it's not really gonna affect us much.
But I don't know. You want to give us a little breakdown of this this incident at Room 77, Janine? I think you might have gotten a little inside scoop or inside scoop some of us aren't privy to.
Yeah, so if anyone doesn't know what Room 77 is, it's a bar restaurant or bar cafe in Berlin, Germany, that has been taking Bitcoin since basically the beginning. It's one of I think it's one of the first businesses to take Bitcoin in exchange for drinks and food. If you go there, they actually have on their menu that they accept Bitcoin, gold, and silver. And they recently started accepting Monero as well. They have a Monero meetup. So yeah, it's one of the easiest places to spend Bitcoin for, you know, everyday purchases. Oh God, there's people talking in the background. Sorry.
At the pub right now.
No. So yeah, like it's a very, very popular, well-known bar, and you know, a lot of people know about it, and that includes, you know, people who use Bcash or Bitcoin Cash. Jorg specifically says to say Bcash in his establishment. It's not allowed to say Bitcoin Cash. And so he's been having problems because he'll get Bcash people coming in, and they'll pay for their drinks in Bcash, and it's like, sorry, we don't take that. And apparently he had an incident recently, or at least one incident recently, where someone sent Bitcoin Cash to a Bitcoin address, and then when it didn't work, they were saying, well, just install this software to recover it. And he was like, no, I am not installing software that I have never used before on our, infrastructure just to get you to recover your altcoins. And so he made a post on Reddit warning people, do not send us Bcash at all, because you will not get it back. And they have no obligation to give it back because they explicitly say on all of their signs that they take Bitcoin. And if you're at all confused about what cryptocurrencies they accept, you talk to the bartender and you say, do you accept this? And they will tell you which ones they accept. And it's Bitcoin and Monero, and that's it. So the Reddit post, he posted it on our Bitcoin and our BTC, and it got a lot of attention on our Bitcoin, but apparently on our BTC, he has since been banned from that subreddit. I think that's what I read, and some Bitcoin Cash people were calling him out, saying that was fake, but it seems like he posted a link that shows he did get banned or suspended. So that's pretty funny. And the second part of the story, though, is that, he technically, Room 77 has already taken Lightning in the form of the testnet. They've already done that kind of ceremony. I think, I don't remember, it was Elizabeth Stark linked to it. If Shinobi, if you bring up the Twitter thread, I think she replied to my tweet.
Uno momento. There we go.
Yes. So they had already done a testnet Lightning transaction a few months, or actually, the beginning of this month they already did it.
This is whoa, that was
last year. Last year, okay, wow, got confused there. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so they were very early. Early on, they were interested in doing Lightning. And there was recently a meetup in Berlin that it was kind of just a hack day. And they were planning to try to use mainnet Lightning at the meetup. But I don't think that they got it working. I don't know if the Lightning node was running at the time. So that didn't happen, but testnet Lightning has already happened. I think it was just because they didn't have a Lightning developer there to set it up. So that will probably happen soon. It hasn't happened yet, but obviously mainnet Lightning is already working because people are using things like Bitrefill, and they're buying merchandise from a few shops that let you buy t-shirts and things. So it's working. And Room 77 is definitely going to be one of the first restaurants to start taking Lightning for drinks and food and stuff. So definitely worth it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, it sucks for the guys sending Bitcoin Cash for their drinks or whatever. Like, but come on, you should have asked, like you're saying. But yeah, that's interesting with the Lightning Network. I got, like we're saying, the one or two guys, in CU that are on top of the ball. They're like, they're real excited about Lightning, and they're working on just like, everything they can with that, because they see that as like being the big infrastructure thing that's going to be needed in the future, where whenever this thing starts to really scale, we'll see a lot of people hiring Lightning Network developers to try and implement these systems to where they could actually transact. It's definitely a smart place to be. And yeah, I think I suspect why maybe some of those people were sending Bitcoin Cash to Bitcoin addresses, but we'll get into that in a second, I guess.
Yeah, let's just say that in the last half year or so, because Room 77 also runs a Bitcoin meetup, and let's just say those meetups have gotten a bit crowded with altcoins lately.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be, but still a good place to go. Food, some of the burger, I think they specifically have a burger that is named Double Bypass.
Man, I need to start eating meat again. Man, it sounds good.
I think it's fucking hilarious that the subreddit, who literally seems to like ground their identity in being the ones who are censored everywhere else they go to speak, literally deletes a post and bans somebody for warning people that if they attempt to do something stupid, they're going to lose their money and not get it back. Like they literally banned somebody for trying to ensure that people don't lose their money. I mean, like, how much cognitive dissonance can there be in this ecosystem?
Yeah, it also doesn't look very good on them that their whole marketing campaign is that Bitcoin Cash / Bcash is the ideal coin for merchants, and for them to to then suspend the account, to silence the discussion with someone who has been running a bar accepting Bitcoin for probably longer than any other bar in the world. So that's pretty disappointing for them.
Mm-hmm. But I guess I don't know, you want to take us into the titular story, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, like you know, we're saying this whole Roger Ver sued title and everything, and like we're talking about these guys sending Bitcoin Cash to Bitcoin wallets. You know, like me back in December, me and JW, we were working with that Bitcoin.com wallet, trying to figure out what exactly is going on over there when it comes to people buying Bitcoin. How would they be led and stuff? And you know, it was a ton of terrible FUD slides and everything, but you know, slides that really didn't give out proper information. It was just a lot of stuff where, you know, I wouldn't call it like outright fraud. It was just a lot of deception. And you know, like here recently, we've seen you know, Bitcoin.com say that they were selling Bitcoin, and it's actually BCH that they're getting. And I mean, that was sort of one of the problems that me and JW got through, was like, you know, we bought Bitcoin and we got BCH. And then when we got the BCH, it was sent to our Bitcoin address. So it did failed. And then we had to contact support. It was a lot of, you know, confusion as far as like sending out, like, was this going to, like, we try to send it to a Bitcoin address, a Bitcoin Cash address, and it doesn't get there. And just a lot of, you know, like we're saying, you know, not exactly fraud, just like, you know, not guiding people in the right direction. And yeah, so this past week we saw a Reddit thread pop up where, you know, people were pointing out that, you know, that Bitcoin.com is selling this now, this BCH as Bitcoin, and it got a lot of upvotes, and it got the community kind of upset. We saw Brian Hoffman make a tweet, you know, saying like he's so pissed that this is getting a bunch of upvotes, like, wow, all these sad losers, you know, that stress over this. And like we're saying, you know, I mean, this is something where it's a lot of, you know, you're not really getting the right information, but now it's just like when you buy Bitcoin, you're getting Bitcoin Cash. And that's something where a lot of the newbies who are coming to Bitcoin.com to buy Bitcoin, you know, they're expecting Bitcoin. And if they get Bitcoin Cash and it's something that's, you know, not Bitcoin, then I can imagine a bunch of people being upset to the point to where, you know, they would want to file suit. And that's exactly what's happened. Money Triggs has put together a Money Triggs. He's the admin for Coin Times magazine and the co-owner of CoinDaily.co, and he's put together a Telegram group with. It started with 600 people, and now it's nearly 1,000. And you know, they've put all this evidence together, and it's all coming together. I mean, they've got their own website where they're asking more people to come in and submit information. And I just checked the Telegram group before we came online, and there's definitely more people coming in and submitting information. And you know, it's one of those things where I've seen the community kind of like you know, saying like we shouldn't get the government involved and yada yada. And it's like, but this isn't us, you know, this isn't our community really. This is a bunch of newbies who came in here and they bought what they thought was Bitcoin and it wasn't, and they got upset, and they followed the standard procedure that they know of for fraud, which is to sue someone. And I mean, like, this is the problem that Bitcoin.com is facing, because I mean, they put themselves in this position, and it's just it's something that is really, it's not in our control of our community. I mean, like, you know, Money Triggs is you know, I guess helping put this whole thing together, but it's not like for no reason. You got 600 people already that are mad about how much money they've spent on this and not gotten the product that they want, that they, you know, thought that they were buying. So I mean, I don't know. I just like I can understand people's arguments to saying like, you know, Bitcoin shouldn't be making their way into the government courts and everything. But I mean, at a certain point, whenever somebody's this prolific of a scammer, I don't know, how exactly we as, a YouTube and Medium post and Reddit and Telegram and Twitter and Slack community are going to come up with the regulations and the enforcement to actually get people to know that they're buying a fraud. And I don't know. It's one of those things where I just feel like it kind of at a certain point has to happen. And I don't know. I think we might get some positive thing out of it. Like maybe, I don't know, like we were discussing in the mumble earlier, how I could see maybe the government saying like, this isn't Bitcoin. I mean, like there might be like some sort of definition in there, which could cause trouble for us later. But as we've seen with the SEC and the CFTC, they seem to kind of understand what they're talking about at this point. And I don't know, at a certain level, this is like out of our control. This is just, this is Roger Ver scamming as many people as he can in a system where, there is still, this legal recourse for people that he's screwing over. And so it's not surprising to me to see it happen. And I mean, it's not even that really upsetting to me. I mean, at a certain point, this guy needs to be taken down because there's a lot of people losing money.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like if he literally just had like buy Bitcoin, like the word Bitcoin on that page, I mean, it's like, yeah, people are gonna lose money, but like, that there is no objective definition to Bitcoin. I mean, like, I think we can establish very solid definitions of what isn't, but to try to do that, in a positive way, like it's, I struggled to try to find one for a while and thought I did, but like the more I dug into the history of development, it's like I was wrong. Like that's not an applicable objective definition of what is Bitcoin. But I mean, like BTC, that's not a name. That's not a colloquial description of something. That is a financial ticker of a specific asset that is listed with that ticker all around the world. And like to cross that line of using that financial ticker and not just the name Bitcoin, like that in my mind is just black and white financial fraud. Like you're no longer giving your opinion. You're no longer saying that this is what I think is closest to Satoshi's. You are actively misrepresenting something by the ticker it's traded as on financial markets. And that's just fraud. Like there's no wiggle room in there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things where, it's like, I don't know, the ticker symbol, like that's where it's, for the most part, it boils down to that, right? I mean, it's like you're saying, whenever you try to come up with a solid definition of what is Bitcoin, you can really kind of be led into a rabbit hole there. But, that ticker and the exchanges and everything, I mean, if people think that they're buying Bitcoin and they get BCH and then they try to go to the exchanges, like it's going to be very obvious that they got screwed on that deal. So yeah, it's something that I don't know, I can understand people's upset about the idea of it going to court, but it's something where I don't understand how exactly Roger Ver is gonna, I mean, like I don't know. It's something where I can understand people being like, well, we don't need to take down Roger Ver. Roger Ver is gonna eventually, get himself isolated or something. But I mean, like the guy's got a bunch of resources and stuff, and he's like, maybe you guys don't know, I've come from a poor part of the country where if you have like a little bit of money and you're trying to invest in something and then you get screwed over, you're gonna get pissed. Especially, I could just see, not everybody's super educated about all this stuff, and they're gonna go to what they know, and what they know is the courts. And so, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, like, Janine Aknix, you guys got any input on this one?
No, I was having a sidebar. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's gonna go how it goes, and I guess we'll see the outcome. I mean, I would be the first person to say like I don't like to see a precedent set about what is Bitcoin. Like I don't think there is like a rational, consistent basis for that. But I very much do think there is a solid basis of like, this is a specific asset, whatever you want to call it, with a specific financial ticker that is consistent on almost every single exchange on the face of the planet. And to pass that ticker off representing something else, like, that is fraud, and that is objective.
Well, I mean, even before this, it was a problem. The Bitcoin.com wallet and the links and the way that they had the labeling there was very misleading, very confusing. And going and taking the ticker is just a next level above that. It's above and beyond what I would constitute as fraud.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, you know, before they cross the line into the ticker, it's like you can argue that it is opinion. You know what I mean? Like, this is my opinion and I am free to speak that. But I mean, the second you cross that line into representing things by financial tickers that they're tied to on an actual marketplace, like, you've just crossed the line of opinion into just being objectively wrong and fraudulent.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But still, I think once there was a track record there of people being misled into what they saw, the prices they saw, and then going and thinking that they're buying Bitcoin and then getting Bitcoin Cash, that's a big deal right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it's like, I don't know. At a certain point, it's like some blowback. You should expect the blowback. And I mean, like, you know, that's where this is. This is the blowback. I mean, I don't know how they're going to get this dude in any kind of court, but I mean, like, you know, I mean, at least maybe it can, you know, try and get Roger to start at least admitting Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin is Bitcoin. I don't know what else would get him to do that.
I don't think anything at this point, dude. I mean, you know, it's like, dude, he's just like lying. I mean, like, left and right, he's lying. I mean, like,
he thinks he's right. He thinks he's right. So somebody needs to convince him he's wrong.
It doesn't make him right. And I mean, not even like to sweep aside like his whole argument being wrong. Just he lies about specific things, like Bitcoin or like Bitcoin Cash being able to do Lightning Network. Like, no, they can't. And it's not just SegWit. Like, if they actually follow through on their roadmap to get to like gigabyte and terabyte blocks, like, you can't do Lightning Network. The entire security of Lightning Network rests on you being able to personally run your own node and check to make sure that old channel states aren't being submitted, or it being so cheap to run a node and there being so many people running it that spreading that information out is effectively the same as just doing it yourself. Like, what are you going to do when you have a terabyte blocks and it literally costs millions of dollars to run a node when there's only a few dozen nodes on the face of the planet? Like, you physically will not be able to run a machine that can check those blocks and make sure that you're not being defrauded in your channel. Like, you will have to trust the giant corporations running nodes for your Lightning channel to be safe from theft. Like, you cannot do Lightning Network based on its security model on Bitcoin Cash. And to say you can is a lie. Like, you could do one-way payment channels safely, but like, you cannot put Lightning Network on something like Bitcoin Cash. Like, the security model will not work. And that's just an objective lie. And I mean, like, some of the costs that they've been throwing around for like running a node for things like that, they're lying about this shit. Like, you know, if you Google Jameson Lopp and serving SPV users, like, he broke all of the costs down just of serving SPV users. And just that alone, I think at like 8 gigabytes is getting up into the hundreds of thousands or like millions of dollars. And it's like, you know, it's, ignore the totality of his argument. The little things he says to support it are just objective lies. And he's like,
I mean, he's been, you know, that's what I was saying. I mean, like, he's been doing this for a long time, enough to where he convinced himself. So I mean, somebody's gonna have to come in there and tell him like, you're not really thinking the right thing, and come from a place where he respects it or something. Because he's one of those guys that, is kind of a Christian fundamentalist in the past, and I'm not quite sure how exactly he's going to see an authority say like, who's going to come in there and say like this is this or that is that, and he's going to respect it and kind of come to terms and agree with it. So maybe it's a court and 600 people that are pissed off at him. I don't know. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Any last input from anybody on this one before we move along?
Good.
All right, Janine, you ready to dive into this next one while the rest of us keep our mouths shut so we stay safe from the SJWs?
Oh, come on. I really don't. Who's got their mic on?
Sorry.
I really don't think it's that big of a deal. It's just it's not. I just it was such a frustrating article to read because so to just give a bit of background, Morgan Peck, the same Morgan Peck who wrote the MIT article, wrote an article for Glamour magazine about 9 women who are changing the game in the so-called blockchain space. And when I first saw this article, I thought, finally a mainstream journalist who isn't filling the New York Times with fake cautionary tales about how there aren't any women in Bitcoin. And yes, I'm referring to Nellie Bowles. But then I started to read this article and I became a bit horrified because if this had just been a profile of women in Bitcoin or women in blockchain, whatever the term you want to use is, then it would have been interesting, maybe. But this is specifically a profile of, it's a piece that's basically recommending 9 women as female role models. And so that puts it in a different context because that's saying they are doing good work and they should be emulated. And I have a number of disagreements with that because the first person on the list is Kathleen Brightman. Peck writes, as an admirer of entrepreneurs, Brightman had decided to become one herself, so she boldly set out to pursue an idea that she and her husband, Arthur Brightman, had been buffing and polishing for years, and that idea was Tezos. Yes, that Tezos, which was trying to solve perceived governance problems in Bitcoin, and then epically failed to even manage the governance of their own foundation, in addition to a number of class action lawsuits from contributors because the Brightmans were not very clear on what the Tezos tokens represented. They were saying it was a donation, but the contributors thought it was an investment, or at least some of them did. And so Brightman and her husband have been in a legal battle with Johan Gevers. I don't pronounce his last name. He's the founder, he's the former foundation president at Tezos. And they've been in legal battle since October 2017. So, yeah, good role model. I would probably put a question, like that is probably the biggest question mark in this list. The next person is Connie from BitGive, which is a foundation that helps people donate their Bitcoin to charities. And in terms of recommending people's role models, this is a way better choice than the first one. Because as far as I know, she actually founded a company that actually does good work and has, benefited a lot of people. So the contrast between number 1 and number 2 is pretty large. The next person is Elizabeth from BitPesa, also pretty good. I believe that's about helping people convert cryptocurrencies into their local currency. Mostly, I think they do a lot of work in Africa. And the next person after that is Tivonia, where's her last name? Tivonia Evans, who apparently created an Ethereum-based token called GUAP. I don't know how to pronounce it because it's apparently an inside baseball word for a lot of cash in the Black community. So I don't know how to pronounce it. So it's basically an Ethereum token specifically for the Black community. And so I'm not really familiar with her. This is after reading this article, this was the first time I had heard of her. But there's one part that really stood out to me in her section where she says, Morgan writes, according to Evans, the money raised on the sale, the token sale, as well as the remaining tokens will be used in part, keyword there, in part. That means there are other things it's going to be used for, to build a network of GUOP accepting merchants in the Black community and to reward consumers for spending money at those businesses, kind of like a typical credit card rewards program. So that kind of sounds innocuous enough, but then further along, she says, because the tokens live on a public blockchain, all GUOP transactions will be available for analysis, providing a rare glimpse into the way Black consumers are spending their money. So from my perspective, it makes me a bit uncomfortable for any venture to be saying we want more insight into a specific group of consumers and how they're spending their money, because that sounds a lot like surveillance to me if it's not explicitly consented to. And especially if the purpose of this coin is basically data analysis on the economic activity of a specific racial group that has a history of facing more scrutiny from financial companies than other groups. And one of the reasons there's not as much data on Black consumers, they say, is because companies discriminate against them. That's also true, but they also tend to use cash. To this day, they continue to use cash and prepaid cards more than other groups. Partially because of circumstances like a higher likelihood of poverty, but also deliberately because of they want to resist that history of surveillance and violence from the state that they have been subjected to for decades. So I really hope anyone who wants to use this coin first makes sure that this data, this economic activity on a relatively sensitive group of people, that's not being accessed or shared incorrectly and should definitely not be stored in an insecure database. But of course, as we know, anything that touches the internet, good luck securing that, because it'll eventually get hacked. So I would love to know what they're doing with this data and if they plan to monetize it, because that just seems a bit suspicious to me. The next person on the list is Tess from Chain. And initially I thought, oh, this is the of the people I had not heard of, this was the most innocuous sounding one. But her role there is apparently to develop a product called Sequence, which quote, takes the blockchain technology and securely puts it in the cloud. Okay. Let's read more of the description from the website, which I don't think I gave you a link to, but I'll just read it. The description of Sequence on the website is: Sequence is a ledger as a service for managing balances. It combines the power of a token-based data model with the convenience of the cloud, making it easy to build, operate, and scale forward-thinking products. Sequence can securely track any type of value, letting software teams focus on shipping and scaling their products instead of building and maintaining ledger infrastructure. So it's a permissioned ledger run in the cloud that you don't have access to, and it manages your balances. So since the cloud is kind of just a buzzword for other people's computers, and the whole point of a blockchain is that the data is distributed among many internet-connected computers, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, Tess is running a blockchain or something. I don't know why it's such an endearing description to say that she's running blockchain technology in the cloud. It's just, yeah. So sounds interesting. Then we have Meltem, who frequently appears on Women in Blockchain lists. Probably most people have heard of her. In the last year or so, she's finally left the digital currency group and now runs her own investment firm called Athena Capital. So again, a lot of the women who are not doing tokens or anything like that are people who work for investment firms or banks. There's no developers really so far. Like, apparently there's no interesting female Bitcoin developers to highlight. We will get to one, but she's the last person on the list. The next person is Amber. who was famously and weirdly included on CoinDesk's most influential people in blockchain list last year, 2017, even though most people had never heard of her. JP Morgan is described as a pioneer in the cryptocurrency space, which, like, really, guys, JP Morgan, pioneer? No. Because I remember Amber tweeting about how the fact that she worked for JP Morgan as a blockchain chief wasn't a contradiction for the cypherpunk ethos, in that she could change things from the inside. But I guess she gave up on that strategy because as of last month, she has left JP Morgan and she is now going to run her own venture, which we don't know what it is yet because she hasn't announced it. So yeah, another female role model, I guess. Then we have the founder of Bancor, which is a pretty funny person to include on this list because Meltem is praising this article for, highlighting great women, and yet last summer in 2017, she called Bancor nonsense. So that's a bit awkward. Again, I don't really see anything particularly captivating except that she claims to the Bancor founder. She basically says she's hired 40% female employees. So I guess that's good. And then the last person on the list is Elizabeth Stark, who doesn't even have a profile picture or a picture dedicated to her, and probably has one of the shortest descriptions on the list. She actually gets okay, so that's not too bad. That's pretty lengthy, but no profile picture. She's the last person on the list. So I mean, being a female here, I would say maybe 2 women, maybe 3 at most on this list are people who I consider to be role models. The rest are just kind of corporate blockchain marketers, essentially, or they run tokens of questionable value or utility. So yeah, this was a pretty disappointing article from my perspective.
They got Elizabeth in there. I was like kind of hoping we were at least going to see her in there, but then they left out her picture. Maybe 9 of 9 was supposed to be 1 of 9. Like that's the number 1 spot. So sure. Maybe it's not the last. Yeah. That's the number 1.
But to be fair, like if I had been interviewed for this and I found out that I was being listed with these other women, I would be like, no, please take me off. Like I feel so bad for her that I don't know what her feelings are, but I just, from my perspective, I feel bad for her that she was listed with these other women that I don't think are on the same level.
Yeah, I mean, like, where's Niha? where is like, I'm gonna butcher her name, but Guala, I think, the lady who worked on Dandelion, or Elaine Wu, or
or even Paige from Zcash or something. People who have been around a long time and have actually been active.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that was. There's also another article that I thought was kind of an unrelated topic, but again, it's about women in Bitcoin and how they are represented. And I guess in the last year or so, there's been a lot of like women panels at conferences, like get all of these blockchain women together to talk about what it's like being women in blockchain.
I actually went to one of those a couple weeks ago. Like it's something where like as it was going on, it's pretty evident where it's just like, yeah, there's like, there's people with there's people with money who like are, older women who don't quite exactly know what exactly we're doing, but they're like, it's interesting and they want to jump in on it. And and they're like the way that they kind of went with their panel was like, it was all just about inspiring other women to get into it without the fear of like not understanding it. And also like, it was also just about like, well, I don't think they took this approach too much, but it was something what I've noticed as far as like the meetups and the women coming to my meetups. It's like women who are trying to make sure that their financials are in order for their household. And it's just like, that's the more women I've seen in Bitcoin, where there is a lot of these, women who are just trying to not be fearful for the space and jump in there, which I guess is maybe one of the reasons why they're adding some of these people in there that are just sort of like running in and doing their own thing, that are in the legacy system, but within crypto or something. It's just, they're just trying to, but like, I agree with you completely. They should definitely add some people in there that, like, I mean, yourself, I mean, I know you say you don't want to be on the list. We need to come up with a list. Yourself, Bitcoin, Mom, Elizabeth Stark, like,
where is Bitcoin Mom?
Right.
Where is Bitcoin Mom? I petition to get Bitcoin Mom on the next list.
I mean, there's just some things where it's like, I think Bitcoin Mom does a great thing for the community as far as bringing like a motherly vibe to it. I mean, there's different aspects you could bring to the whole thing. And it's just like, they could definitely be more choosy about it and get a good list together. That would be nice to finally see.
Yeah, and she also runs one of the most popular Bitcoin meetups in the United States, which is Bitcoin Open. I think it's Bitcoin Open Blockchain.
Yeah.
I think and it's in Chicago, and it's one of the most popular meetups in the U.S. So she's been running that for few years now, so she should get credit for that. Like, where are all these people? All of the women that I actually know and consider influential are not on this list, or at least most of them are not on this list.
Well, I'm gonna just be blunt, Janine, but it seems like just women they can in the space and just put them up there. And it's just like that seems like the only thing that could be a consistent criteria here.
Oh man,
like, just to be blunt.
It's a traditional list, man. But yeah, just going back on like Bitcoin Mom for 1 second. I mean, like super influential. I mean, like, there's people here that know about Bitcoin simply because it's like, I was looking for something to a way to build a meetup, and like, it was like, I used her meetup as the model, and it was like, I mean, there was a reason, because like you're saying, it's the most popular one really in the country, and that's super influential. I think they just had like a big presentation with Andreas and LTB 5-year anniversary and presentation out there. And I mean, they're doing lots of influential stuff out there. So it would definitely be interesting if we could really put together a real list. We should do that. I know we could come up with at least 5 to 10 for sure.
Yeah, let's make the anti list.
The cipher chick list. Oh no, I'm in trouble, man. Let's keep going, dude.
Well, and I also on the general topic of like what it's like to be a woman in Bitcoin, I found that a lot, like especially these women that are on the list, if you ask them like because women tend to be more interested in altcoins, and I think that's because they perceive that, I don't know, something about getting involved in Bitcoin, the space is already it's already been taken over by men, and so they feel like they have to create a new coin because there's not enough room. I have personally never felt that way. Like, all of the people that I have met, with a few exceptions that you well know of, but my experience has been really awesome, and people have been welcoming. I have not experienced that kind of pushback, or people questioning my intelligence. In fact, I think my intelligence or my expertise is often overestimated. So that's a problem.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Well, I mean, I haven't been here. I haven't been in Bitcoin nearly long enough. I do a lot of reading. That's about it.
You're very influential in the spaces for sure. I mean, like, you definitely know what you're talking about, and
Pamela Morgan. Where's Pamela Morgan? Seriously,
yes.
we need to build this list.
Yeah, we do need to build a list for real. Let's work on that.
I think the other article was just about women only panels, and I think they interviewed Ariana Simpson about whether that actually is beneficial or harmful. And her conclusion was that it has a negative impact because it kind of, instead of saying, we are inviting these women because they are actually experts in what they do, they have, something meaningful to contribute, they're being invited because they're women, and they only really get to talk amongst women on panels, which I don't think is the best kind of scenario for a panel. So yeah, I definitely, I don't think I would participate in an all woman panel. It doesn't, I'm interested in people who know what they're talking about. And if they happen to be women, if they happen to be men, I don't care either way. I just want to talk to smart people, honest people. So yeah, this article, I think it wasn't really a counter to it because it was talking about panels, but I think like the spirit of it was a bit counter to the first article with the list of women, which was focusing on the fact that they were women, and that's not the greatest data point to consider when you're organizing panels.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's the politics of the day. It's just like, you have to be following these rules, and you have to be, observing these things. And, it's just, I mean, for the most part, like, I think it has kind of like avoided the bulk of the space, like you're saying. I mean, for the most part, people know each other in the space that have been here for a while. And I don't know, it's really all about, what work you bring, and, how are you helping the network and everything like that. And yeah, I mean, right now it's just like there's always a keen interest to figure out what everybody's thinking. And so they get these panels together and figure it out.
Another woman I would like to see on the list is Alakanani, who runs a Satoshi Center in Botswana. Like, if you want someone who's on the ground in communities who really haven't had great access to news or new applications coming out for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, I think she should also be on the list because she's made this education center for kids where they can learn how to program and also learn how to get into Bitcoin.
Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
I mean, to get like political real quick before we slide along to the next thing. I mean, it's like it really just kind of is like the large cultural divide that's consuming the world at large, just like kind of trying to like slip its way into Bitcoin. And I mean, it's like in my mind, it just comes down fundamentally to like the people who refuse to appreciate the difference between having equal access to opportunity and having equal outcomes because of those opportunities. And I mean, like, ultimately,
Oh, cut out there, bud. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Shinobi.
I think they caught on to you.
Censored.
Being censored. Yeah. Oh.
Mr. Politically Incorrect. This is what happens.
Well, bear with us while we wait for Shinobi here.
Yeah, we should get him back here in a second. I don't know if his internet's fried or if his mic's breaking down, but we'll do a little troubleshooting. Oh, it looks like he came back under. Yeah, back here, man.
I think I need to kill my computer and throw it in a dumpster fire.
At least it wasn't your cat this time.
But yeah, just it's like, you know, who cares if you're a man, a woman, or a purple polka dot monster? Like, you have access to an opportunity, and if you make something of that opportunity, you make something of that opportunity. If you don't, you don't. Like that. I mean, that should just be the end of it in my mind.
Yeah, and I also want to point out, I think I mentioned this on a previous show, but Bitcoin especially is one of the easiest projects to join as a developer because so many contributors are anonymous. Like, literally, there have been people who with names. I think someone the Mimblewimble, the person who originally wrote Mimblewimble, they sent that to, I think, the IRC channel under Lord Voldemort as a pseudonym. Like, people can contribute under, you don't know who they are. It can be anyone. So the idea that it would be hard to become a Bitcoin developer as a woman, I mean, you can learn how to do it very easily because pretty much everything is published on the internet. There's numerous guides. Like, there's so much information to go through. It'd be so easy to if you're already a female developer, to start developing on Bitcoin, because Myrrh.
This is why we have to come up with
I'm ashamed right now. I'm sorry, Mir. I'm sorry, Giacomo.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, because she had so much. She was so dedicated to Bitcoin that I think we actually read that they put their baby's birth date on the blockchain.
Mm-hmm. They already got a Twitter account. They have the Bitcoin baby Twitter account. Yeah, I think definitely we need to put together that list so we can get some real credits out there that deserve it.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know, you guys done whacking the gender politics stick?
I think so, but we'll probably be back at it later.
Alrighty. Well, I guess next up is something that is very hilarious and I think indicative of the legacy system starting to kind of shit its pants. So it's kind of like a preamble to this. I was watching a talk by Tom Lee yesterday, kind of about the effects that like different generations kind of gravitating towards like different investment vehicles for like surplus income they have as they start to get older to invest in things, and the effect that it's had on different asset classes over the past 100 years or so. And kind of towards the end of it, he was pointing out that Coinbase was actually making more money than ICE, like one of the biggest exchange platforms in the world. And they're literally just one of the most incompetent businesses in this space that trades for assets. and they are generating more profit than one of the largest like legacy financial platforms in the world. And I think this story involving Sequoia Investments and Binance kind of shows how rapidly like these institutions are starting to chomp at the bit to kind of get a piece of the crypto pie. Apparently late last year, Sequoia had approached Binance and was kind of in discussion for I think $80 million raised for something like an 11% stake in Binance. And Binance ended up like not following through with the investment and kind of approaching and dealing with a few other firms before turning down offers from all of them. And apparently with Sequoia, they actually signed an exclusivity contract as far as fundraising for the first round, the A round that they were going to have. And they're suing them over breaking that by looking at deals from IDG Capital. But the thing is here, the exclusivity contract applied only to the A round funding. And if we look at this other article, which again, I will probably not remember the place it was in. Okay, yeah, you can see here that the deal actually explicitly covers the Series A round, period. That's it. And they were in negotiations with IDG for selling stake in a next round of funding. And so Sequoia pretty much had an injunction placed against Binance, which was then lifted in Hong Kong, pretty much claiming that they had broke this exclusivity deal, when in reality, Binance kept to it to a T, and was simply approaching other parties to see interest in further successive funding rounds. And like I said a minute ago, like they pretty much decided to turn all of these investors down. And it's just the fact that like they immediately went to a baseless lawsuit to try to like force through this deal to buy stake in Binance. And like this kind of stuff is going to start happening a lot more frequently, and a lot more at larger scales. Because I mean, like, just Jesus, think about it. Like, one of the largest financial platforms in the fucking world is dwarfed in profit by an incompetent shitstorm like Coinbase. And Coinbase is a few percent of the entire global crypto market. Like the profit revenue in this space is just dwarfing anything that these large financial firms are pulling in. And we're just getting started, unless all of this is about to implode on itself over the next year or two.
Yeah, it definitely looks like, they wanted a piece of that pie. The Binance pie. Like those guys, man, that guy's been running all around, getting some deals done. I've been seeing Binance popping up all over Reddit and Twitter. And like, it looks like they're doing something in Bermuda. I mean, like they're working over there. And I guess, like you're saying, there's like they have the option, I guess, and they chose this, and now everybody's upset. So yeah, it's probably a marker of just like how much people do want to get into these areas where there's definitely like some volume flowing through these exchanges. Like I've heard I don't know, it's like when Binance first came on, everybody was like, it's another exchange, we'll see how it goes. And then they played their cards right in the whole Segwit 2X fight and everything. And I don't know. I think I don't know. They're here in Bermuda, and I mean, so we'll see what they're doing. I mean, like all these exchanges, they seem to be not all of them, but it seems like most of the exchanges, they're trying to get themselves lined up with a place, like a geographical location that'll be favorable for them. And I guess Bermuda's it. Man, that guy's got some shorts on there signing that deal. It looked like he must have gone from that deal right to the beach. I need to go out that way. Set up a bank account.
Yeah. I didn't believe Bermuda shorts were actually an acceptable thing to wear in a business context until I Googled it. I was just like, no, this is like a god level Photoshop meme. But no, a real picture.
Yeah, man, I don't know that Binance CEO. He's starting to grow on me. I'm like, I think I like this guy.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's like the next couple of stories are all like kind of really like playing into like exactly that, just like looking for like a friendly jurisdiction in kind of geographical area. I mean, like real quick, just buzz through the next one. A lot of major banks in Chile actually have been kind of shutting down the accounts of crypto exchanges down there, and that was recently overturned in court right now. And pretty much all of the exchanges who had their account shut down are now having them given back with an actual explicit order from the courts demanding that they keep these accounts open for these exchanges under the exact contract terms that they were negotiated with prior to being closed. And they're kind of like just like no. And the Chilean Minister of Economy is like specifically like stating like the kind of the reason behind this is like we can't allow ourselves to like get left behind in this industry. Like we need to let these businesses kind of experiment and innovate, and if they fail, like let them fail on their own, but like let's not kind of artificially try to create that situation. And like it really is showing, I think it was like 2 months ago at this point, maybe, like we were talking about the South Korean regulation scheme kind of being challenged in their Supreme Court. And I really think we're going to see like a successive wave of actions like that over this year, where kind of burdensome regulation or banks just acting unilaterally to kind of stomp out like companies in this space, like that's going to be pushed back legally. And like, you know, these businesses or like cryptocurrency holders are not just going to take that laying down. And I mean, people kind of have this idea of like the government can just snap their finger and do whatever they want. But like that government is a group of people, and those people have power delegated amongst them. And if you have people in court systems start rolling back like actions like this, like they can't just do whatever they want. Like those people in their position have set some precedent or done something, and you can't just flippantly go, oh well, we're going to ignore this part of the government and the rest of us are going to do whatever we want. Like those things usually involve toppling governments. And I don't see revolutions being fought anytime soon to stop cryptocurrency from continuing to grow.
Yeah, I mean, that's just this is one of those things where it's like we sort of started to see here, and I don't know, in the U.S. where it's like, you know, there might be enough of those investors in some of these coins where we're not exactly getting proper definitions because of just the interest involved. And so, you know, it is, I don't know, it's one of those things where, like, I don't know, it's just good to see that they don't want to hinder the development of this sort of thing. And, you know, that's it's a good thing in my book. I mean, like, you know, let these guys develop.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I don't know. You guys want me to just rattle through like the next couple real quick? I mean, it's all pretty much just like regulatory changes in different regions.
Yeah, that's why you got all those flags on there. Yeah, let's do them.
All right. Well, I guess next up, sure everybody remembers that India is kind of having banks be forbidden by the central bank from interacting with cryptocurrency businesses, and there's kind of like a gray area right now as far as like other non-bank payment processors those exchanges are using, kind of themselves potentially being in kind of a precarious situation here and shielding the exchanges from having to directly worry about it. But they're actually having that be challenged in India as well, in the High Court of Delhi. And they're actually kind of pointing similarly to what's going on in Korea right now, the Constitution as kind of the basis of it. And like obviously I'm not a lawyer, and I definitely am not familiar with the Indian legal system or constitution to any serious degree. But I did kind of try digging through a little bit of it. The sections they're citing are like articles 19, some sections in 14. And it seems to me what they're kind of trying to do is citing the section of their constitution that's set up to kind of protect people from like undue discrimination. And one of the specific sections, at least translated in English, I believe, was something like the ability, you are guaranteed the ability to pursue any occupation or career. And, you know, obviously I'm assuming that there are exceptions like outright illegal things or something violating other laws. But when I dug into it a little more, it seemed to me like this was more kind of speaking to like public or governmental jobs. You know what I mean? Like to kind of prevent the government from exercising kind of discriminatory policies when hiring people for public positions. But again, like I'm kind of just digging around on Google, and I'm not going to go and say any source I was looking at was definitive in any way. But it kind of seems to me, based on what I was able to take away looking at that this isn't really the most like sound basis of kind of protesting against the central bank's decision there. Because if I am correct, in kind of reading this as more like the government being forced to abide by this when hiring people for governmental jobs. I'm not really too sure like how applicable that would be to something like a private business, like a cryptocurrency exchange, or their right to engage in that business. But you know, if there's any viewers from India who kind of have like a better insight or kind of explanation of what's going on with this case, I'd love to hear from you guys and kind of get, you know, a take from somebody who actually knows how things work in that country. Obviously, I've never been there myself. But
you don't know India constitutional law? What?
But yeah, it's like out of kind of all the things here, like this one, this kind of pushback seemed like it didn't really have as sound of a basis as a lot of other things that I see going on right now internationally. And then also over in the Philippines, they seem to kind of be emulating, I don't know, kind of the general Chinese attitude towards economic activity and specific to cryptocurrencies. And they're effectively legalizing 10 different blockchain or cryptocurrency companies to operate in a specific economic zone authority, which is, at least in the case of China, I'm not too sure with the Philippines, it's just like an area where they kind of loosen laws and regulations to allow, you know, companies to operate without as much bureaucratic overhead, and giving a lot of tax breaks to these businesses that are going to be opening there. And it seems like they're kind of trying to set up like a little like lab environment isolated from the like country at large, and kind of let these businesses operate there and see like how this plays out in the long term. And then kind of the last thing in the Asian area is some legislators in Taiwan are kind of calling for a little more clarity in cryptocurrency regulations, because like over the past like 6 months or so, there's kind of been a lot of calls and pushes for things, but never really any clear regulation put out. And it's starting to kind of scare off like some financial institutions and other businesses from really getting involved in this space. You know, I'm sure that not in a huge part, but this is kind of atmospherically probably part of what had to do with Bitfinex's bank accounts having wires blocked over like the last year or so. And, you know, Taiwan in general just kind of has a lot of international scrutiny as far as money laundering and illicit flow of funds. And so like to see them kind of explicitly demand like clarity for all of this, like from the legislature itself, like it's, you know, it's all, when you look at like all of these past couple stories, I think we can start to see the dominoes starting to topple of governments going, ooh, like over here, like bring the money over here.
Yeah, I mean, like, was that the last one?
Well, it's one more real quick in France, but it's pretty much again, timetables aren't my brain's best, but Janine actually covered a little while ago Germany kind of changing the way that it was looking at taxing Bitcoins and kind of recognizing them and classifying them. And France also recently is about to be kind of changing their tax policy. And I believe what it used to be is they classify cryptocurrency activity as corporate taxes, which are corporate income tax, which could get up as high as I think 45% on its own. And then there's also the capital gains tax on top of that. And they're going to be reclassifying things as movable property. And I think the highest that should allow the percentage to get now is 19%, I believe, on the new tax rate.
Which is still quite a lot. Because in Germany, as long as I think if you hold for a year, you don't have to pay, or you pay I can't remember if it's you pay long-term capital gains, which is extremely low, or you don't pay any capital gains. I think it's you don't pay any after a year or two.
Mm-hmm. But it's like, it's like just like this domino just seems to be like exploding. I mean, this is like a half a dozen stories in just this week or so of like big attempts to reform regulatory or like, tax policies towards things. And like everybody's gearing up to just like start looking at companies in this space, like come here, like bring that money here.
Yeah, I think we are starting to finally see some like competition come in there in the form of like regulation, as far as like hey, bring your crypto here, and we'll you can be in a good spot when it comes to cashing out. So yeah, I think we'll just continue to see that sort of progress go, and to eventually till we get to a point to where we get I don't know. It's interesting because it is like last year I can remember where it's like everything started to kind of like the regulations started to kind of come in. You started seeing countries talk about it, where now you're right. It's like freaking 6 in one day, like a 1 week about this, all these different regulations. So yeah, I think the dominoes are falling.
I saw a tweet just before we started the show. I think it was from Pierre Rochard, and it was about how I don't know if it's something they included in their original paper about hyper Bitcoinization, but apparently one of the signs of hyper Bitcoinization, I don't really like that term, but anyway, the concept is that there will be this like sudden moment where adoption of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies just goes mad, and it just, states have to like rush to deal with that new reality. And he said that a situation where countries start competing for not only Bitcoiners but also Bitcoin companies to offer them better treatment than what they would get in their home country or a different foreign country is like a sign of hyper Bitcoinization.
Yeah, I mean, like just recently, Robinhood was allowed to trade in like 4 states, and we saw some traders like picking up their house and moving over there to start running some trades. So yeah, it's happening.
Stupid mute button. But yeah, and I mean, it's like it really is gonna be like a weird dynamic. I mean, like if you just look back, I mean, you just look at like tech companies and like a lot of the stuff the European Union has been doing. Like they're demanding more and more things. Like, Google, you have to delete this data from somebody or about somebody if they complain about it. Or like, you have to comply with like keeping these records for so long for us to be able to pry into people's bullshit. And it's like, it's the government's demanding things of the companies. And I think in the cryptocurrency space, like it's going to be completely reversed. It's like companies are going to be able to sit there and demand something out of the government. And if they don't want to cave, well, okay, toodaloo, see you later. I'm gonna go check out what this other guy wants to offer me.
Yeah, it's maybe why we see Binance and Bermuda and all that stuff. Yeah, it's about to get, I mean, it's interesting times and all, but it's just about to get a whole lot more interesting, I guess. It's just yeah, it's
speaking of Binance and Bermuda, do we have that picture of him wearing the CEO of Binance wearing those blue shorts?
I was searching for it for a second.
We need to get that if that's not in the news desk.
We're not as organized as you in terms of links and stuff. I've been scrolling for the last 30 seconds trying to bullshit.
Well, my favorite screenshot from that, someone like, it was a picture of him standing there with shorts, and someone labeled it, they did an arrow pointing to, because he was wearing a suit on the upper half and then shorts on the bottom, so they did an arrow pointing to the suit saying blockchain, and then an arrow pointing to his shorts saying Bitcoin. like suits for blockchain bros, shorts don't give a fuck for Bitcoin.
Yeah, That's that tweet right there. I just posted in the chat.
Oh, right. First one or second one?
Second.
All right. For all the cool kids watching on YouTube, it is coming.
It's funny, man. There's a couple of pictures where it's like everybody's kind of making a joke about it too.
I just like I didn't believe it. Like I've heard the phrase Bermuda shorts before, but I did not understand that it meant business attire, and my brain just can't reconcile that businessmen would find this acceptable. I mean, this is just the silliest fucking thing in the world. This looks like what you would see in a comedy sketch of people making fun of businessmen.
Yeah. So just to clarify, someone did say that in Bermuda because it's Bermuda, wearing shorts is fine. It's not a sign of disrespect. So the fact that he was wearing shorts was not bad. It just looks weird in a photo where everyone else is wearing long black pants.
I'm gonna say, like, the weirdest thing about it is the socks. Like, you can't pull your socks up that high when you're wearing shorts, dude. Put some flip-flops on and say goodbye to the socks. Come on, man. Get with it. Sorry, dude. Like, I mean, like, I'm looking at the socks. I'm like, that's really awkward. Wearing shorts with socks hiked up that high. But yeah.
Well, what would have been even more funny is if he was wearing sandals with the socks.
Yeah, that would be bad news. Like the Velcro sandals, and like then it's like, all right, yeah, went dead on us.
You are trying to get me to make a Pollock joke, aren't you? Like you're prodding me about it.
No, I'm not trying to get us in trouble, man.
Sorry, Chicago humor for when people are seen wearing socks and sandals.
Oh, easy. I didn't catch it. I'm from New Orleans. We don't catch that many down there. I got you.
Just to warn you, Shinobi, it's apparently a Germanic tradition to wear socks and sandals. So
my whole life has been a lie.
Oh my goodness, I thought it was just, dads without good fashion sense, but man, I'm wrong.
Oh man. All right. You guys ready for the next one? I think we got like 4 more stories of me rambling left and then conversing about them.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. So this. Oh, hey, real quick, what's going on, Money Triggs? Welcome to the chat. But yeah, this story, I think this took way longer for me to see in a headline somewhere than I thought it would. But 600 mining machines have been confiscated in the Tianjin province in China for pretty much running a mining operation without regulatory approval. And I know in the article here it's kind of calling it power theft, but they weren't outright stealing electricity. They were just drawing way too much of it after the Chinese, the People's Bank of China has stated that they're going to start getting a lot more strict in allowances of like where and how much electricity can be used to mine, and kind of slowly start clamping down on that to ease miners out of the country. And I mean, for a while, because like nothing like this happened, I was kind of just assuming it was just lip service, and eventually, we would see another about face, as has kind of been the history in the case of China FUD. But it seems like they really like want to follow through with this. I mean, and it's at this point, like it's kind of got me a little personally confused as to why they're being so gentle about trying to nudge miners out of the country. Like they could just like this could be fist comes down, done and over. Like they know where a large amount of the farms are. Like they're registered. Like they know where they are. And in terms of illegal or unknown operations, you just do exactly what was done here. You track power consumption and then seize the equipment. And so I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
why are they so light-handed?
I don't know. It's like whenever this whole thing, I don't know. I think there's really some weird stuff going on at play in Asia with the China mining and like the whole North Korea, South Korea thing going on. I'm not quite sure what's going on. What's that? Oh man, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, there's something going on there, but I mean, like, it is one of those things where I thought we were going to start to see a correction of like just like maybe stories of like miners getting turned back on in China. Where so to see a story like this, I was kind of like, I guess they're really serious about that move. And so I don't know, maybe there is some sort of like alignment going on as far as like just what China's trying to do with crypto and what the rest of the world's trying to do with crypto. I don't know. It seems like we need to just sort of keep an eye on it and watch the stories coming out of there, you know?
But it's just weird because it's like the way they're taking like a gentle-handed approach with this. I mean, as Jihan whispered, as Janine just whispered, Jihan Wu, it seems they have some reason for not wanting to damage the space, like for coming down lightly. And it's like
I'm definitely the reason that China's taking a light hand. It's all me.
But it's like, we've never seen any explicit evidence or anything of some kind of tie between the Communist Party and Bitmain. I mean, like, I've speculated a lot about like the kind of thought process and long-term plans behind Bitmain's Sophon AI ASIC line. There's been a lot of cause to speculate, but there's never really been anything definitive. But to just see like how light-handed they are in trying to shove miners out of like the country, like I can't see anything except Jihan. Like it's just like this compounding circumstantial evidence of like some kind of arrangement, like some kind of relationship there. Because it's like, what other reason would they have to not just come down with a fist and just get it all the hell out of the country? Like,
yeah, I like the explanation in the troll box, because certain key party people are involved and allow these key people to exit gracefully and save face before the actual crackdown.
That's a possibility for sure. I mean, like, we could see the similar thing over here with Ethereum or whatever.
Because I don't know if you guys have seen the currency wars talk that Andreas gave at the end of 2016, but one of the things he pointed out is that when it comes to major changes to regulation of money or supply of money, any of that, the people who exit first, who get the good money and get rid of the bad money as fast as possible, are the people in government. So it would not surprise me at all that they are moving slowly.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was kind of like when all those, mining farms were getting set up without real electricity bills and stuff. I'm pretty sure that was all done through greasing government officials and everything like that. So, yeah, it's not too surprising if they're heavily involved.
Yeah, on the local level, definitely. Like, and it's still secondhand from my perspective, but from like talking from some people who actually live in China, like that's definitely been a huge part before things started consolidating in like a lot of these like farms up in Upper Mongolia and like Bitmain's like housing services and shit. Like you would see like in a lot of places with like old shut down factories or like kind of businesses that had got ran into the ground. Like miners would come in and like take these places and start mining, and then you would see payoffs or like taxation at a more local level. And a lot of the local provinces were getting really pissed when this kind of crackdown started really snowballing this way, because miners leaving is a lot of money leaving their pockets too. But it's just like on a more national level, I mean, like there has to be some kind of at least unspoken or informal arrangement between Bitmain and the Chinese government, because like like there's no other reason to slow it down. Like, you know, it's still legal for citizens to own it. Like, you know, there's still ways to actually trade it, illegal or not. And like as far as businesses, like there's really no Bitcoin businesses in China besides mining now. Like they've shut the exchanges down. Like they've banned trading. Like all the businesses still in existence are like migrating out into other jurisdictions. And it's like Bitmain is the only reason.
Which is really unfortunate because for anyone who's never been to China, basically when you go there now, you pay for everything using WePay. I think it's called WePay, which is a subset of WeChat. And there's QR codes everywhere. Like if you want to pay for dinner, scan a QR code with your phone, pay. Like everything uses QR codes, which is also what a lot of people do when they buy things like at restaurants with Bitcoin, or pay for things at restaurants with Bitcoin is QR codes. So you could not have like that's such a huge market. If they actually allowed, you know, restaurants to start taking Bitcoin, you would already have a population of people that is familiar with that technology. So it wouldn't be that difficult.
I'm sorry. I was just looking at the troll box and I started looking into this. It is pretty interesting how, you know, like it looks like 600 miners were stolen in Iceland, like a beginning of last month. And then like these 600 get seized and shut down. I mean, like the article I'm reading here says like it wasn't just Bitcoin miners, but it was like a large scale theft that they hadn't witnessed before, and they've been quiet about it. So that's interesting. I don't know. I just like noticed that too. I sort of dug into it real quick.
I mean, maybe I can't remember specifically right now, but I'm pretty sure like the guy got busted before he was able to actually like get the equipment anywhere. But
yeah, I mean, it's
things like that probably aren't going to be like too crazy to hear from in the near future, though. I mean, steal equipment in one jurisdiction and smuggle it out to another, and I mean, after that, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's just like you know, the word we don't like to say. It's a hyper Bitcoinization. Not hyper, I guess, but it is the Bitcoinization. It's happening.
Hypo Bitcoin spray.
All right, looks like we got about 15 minutes. Another few stories. You want to wreck through them?
All right. Well, it's not really much to say about this one except TD Ameritrade doing. They apparently spammed 68 Bitcoin transactions to encode their logo in ASCII art in the Bitcoin blockchain. And why? Like, it's like you're going to get this one headline. That's it. And nobody's ever going to actually see the data in the chain. Like, people don't visually watch the blockchain except maybe like programmers debugging things. Like, why did you do this?
Yeah, sorry, Ameritrade, but nothing is going to top Bernanke ASCII art. So that
Yeah.
title that title of best blockchain art has already been taken.
Yeah, definitely jumped at it for the headline. I'm thinking it's yeah, it's also like I don't know. Somebody was saying on Twitter, like they posted it, said like prime example why we don't need bigger blocks.
I mean, it's like, yeah, like if you have infinite space at almost no cost, like people are just gonna do unbelievable amounts of stupid shit like that. And yeah, my computer's not gonna store everybody's ASCII art for all time. Oop, surprise link from Janine. And there we go. Oh, the backpack. Oh, I want this backpack so bad with the hacks from the Genesis block, but like this is just asking to be mugged. Like it's just.
I know I want so much Bitcoin swag, but I do not want to get like, you know,
Well,
accosted.
I mean, to be fair, how many, like, it's one thing to have like a Bitcoin backpack, but how many people on the street would recognize that that was like a message, an op return message in Bitcoin? Like, how many people would? I don't
You got a
think
secret
most
zipper
people.
back there. Did you see that?
Oh,
Man, I want the thing.
look at that. I also know that there's a dress, a women's dress with. Oh God, no! They just ruined it.
It's
Wait,
the
what
Sam
is
slide.
this? Oh
It's the
no!
second one.
Oh no! Well, that will get you mugged. That one will, because that has
Merchandising.
that has shitcoin logos on it. That will get you mugged. The other one probably not, because most people will not know what it says. Yeah, there's also there's a really nice looking black dress that also has the same code on it as well. I don't know if I can find it. I'll try.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look for that backpack because yeah, I don't know. I think I saw somebody. What was it was the Bitcoin Baby Twitter account where it's like his first onesie is the Genesis block. I think I was like, oh, that's awesome, man. So yeah, like you know, yeah, I want to get some T-shirts, backpacks, all that stuff with the hex on there. It'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, like that though. I mean, I don't know. Like, if we really do go global, that is one of those like little tidbits of knowledge I think that everybody will know. It's like the thing in the first block that's pretty much like fuck the banks, and it's just like it kills me inside because, like, you know, like you said, Rick, like I like my Bitcoin swag, but it's like I know like all of the shit that I have, like one day I'm going to have to stop wearing it anywhere except around my place, because like that's just like screaming like, hey, I had Bitcoin way back in the day. Rob me, please.
I could just imagine us at that point. It's just like old farts with a shadow box with a bunch of hex codes in there, and it's like this was the days where you wore this hat, and this was the. Oh man. Shadow box, and that's an old military thing, I guess.
So I did find the dress, and I do, by the dress I do not mean the weird optical illusion blue gold thing controversy that we had last year or something. I mean a hex dress. Yep.
That's pretty cool.
See, now that's cool because like you're not gonna see what that is unless you get close enough, and most women probably aren't going to just like let every random person get that close to read that. So that's a little more.
Yeah, they actually made it look like the design of how they place the code actually makes it look nice and normal from like a few feet away.
Yeah, it does kind of look like just a uniquely striped dress.
Mm-hmm.
So it is happening, man.
I'm just gonna be sad when it's no longer safe to wear my crypto swag. I'm gonna be very, very sad. All right.
You mean the fuzzy holiday sweaters that everyone bought at the end of last year? because I know a few people who have been wearing those in all seasons.
Uh-oh.
I want my Blockstream hoodie. When the hell am I getting my Blockstream hoodie? I need it because when some idiot inevitably starts a Bcash meetup, I need it to trigger them. Okay, I need it. It is an absolute requirement to maintain my quality of amusement.
But Shinobi, wouldn't you be worried about getting caught on camera or something?
No, I would go to the meetup with the Blockstream hoodie and trigger them. All of them. It would be worth it.
Yeah, just sit in the back with the hoodie up and just, yeah, don't even ever look up.
But speaking of things that make me sad, though, Snoop Dogg, why are you performing at a Ripple Blockchain Week NYC party? Why? God, why?
Oh,
Ripple's hype, dude.
I mean, I just personally prefer Kanye because he's got the dragon energy, you know?
Right. Decentralized. Burn the Excel spreadsheets.
He wasn't supposed to say he was in the den. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, this is kind of a joke.
It's like, this just sucks. And like, this, like, I generally don't like talking about like what I'm doing on Twitter, but like this started a huge shit fest of an argument like between me and a bunch of Ripple supporters. And it reminded me why I hate talking to people who shill shit coins. It's because like you try to make a complex point to somebody and they just ignore it. Like they'll ignore it and they'll break it down into its constituent pieces and then just argue about the pieces. And it's like they will just go like la 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 and pretend that there is an overall point or difference that all of those pieces spell out together. And it's just like the most frustrating thing in the world when you're sitting there and somebody just responds to like 5% of the point you're trying to make and then just retweets themselves and like drags 10 other buddies in, and it just becomes a giant shit show of circle jerking where nobody is actually addressing like the points you're trying to make.
Lightning is an altcoin, Shinobi. I know because I'm Tiffany Hayden.
Uh-oh. Triggered.
Big reveal. I am Tiffany.
Well, what I have to say in response to that is you guys shouldn't use Ripple payment channels because they're clearly an altcoin, and Ripple Labs is lying to you and trying to trick everybody into using an altcoin instead of Ripple.
Ripple Labs sounds like the name of a company that works on like wave machines for pools.
I think our toolbox is right on cue with what's going on here. I mean, it's just like they said, because Ripple is the shizzle, and because he can get paid and openly smoke weed in New York City now. So, I mean, I think that's why Snoop Dogg's doing it. But like the whole Ripple guys, like, good lord, I don't know what we're gonna do.
What I find hilarious is that whenever there's a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency article, and they'll say something like, cryptocurrencies are about to disrupt and ripple through the financial industry, and then there's always someone in the comment section who's like, did they say Ripple? Like, do they mean XRP?
Oh yeah, like, they're probably right.
They mean the ripples of fate from Pocahontas. That's what they mean.
But I mean, it's like ridiculously silly. Like, there's some somewhat interesting things that Ripple has tried to do, but I mean, like, ultimately, the way that the entire validation process of Ripple works is clients running the exact same rule set can arrive at a conflict in what the current state of the network is. And when that happens, there is absolutely nothing that will converge those back to agreement except human beings deciding who is in charge. Like they have to consciously step in as a human agent and decide, like, who are we following here? And when you look at a blockchain system like Bitcoin, that just cannot happen. If you are running the same rule set, you will converge to the same state. I mean, just end of story. Like, it might take a bit, like a network partition could be prolonged, but there is no human intervention or choice required to converge to a singular state. And it's like, it just boggles my mind the backflips that I see Ripple supporters go through to just be like, nah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's one of those where it's just like people trying to, throw up their bags.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I don't know. You guys ready for the last story?
Sure. Let's do it. Final one.
Would not be right to end this episode doing anything but shitting on Rogers some more. So I'll break this one. Sorry, but I'll try to be quick with this one. So there is this exchange, BitXO in India, that Roger Ver is calling the largest exchange in India. I've never heard of it before.
Shinobi,
it's not listed on.
Shinobi, it's clearly pronounced Bit Kiss Hug Kiss Hug.
That's what I was thinking.
But it's like Roger is like, you know, dude, like, when are you gonna like acknowledge that everybody can see how full of shit you are? Like, it's not on CoinMarketCap as the largest volume exchange. This publication, BTC Manager, reached out to them and asked for evidence that they are the largest volume exchange. And as of last I checked, they have received absolutely nothing to actually back that up. Roger is promoting an ICO they're doing to get this business going. And the fucking cherry on the top, there have been a bunch of Twitter sock puppets just praising this exchange in response to fucking Roger's post, and just all over where it's mentioned. And if you actually check out this article in the show notes and follow this link here, you can actually see that this account is tied to Fiverr and is actually a paid account that will go out and play this social media manipulation game. And it's just like right here, black and white. Like, there are sock puppets that were paid for to pump this shit. And the last part, where
Supreme.
I need
so
to
superb.
Get better at mapping the contents of articles in my head. Yeah,
it's need to learn how to spell.
I think it's here. No, not here. Okay. Pretty much though, an admin at our BTC is calling this an ethical promotion campaign in response to being called out for using sock puppets to push this. And I mean, it's just like, come on, Roger, like, come back to reality from Fantasyland, please, because people are sick of talking to you in the language of an alternate reality.
I don't hire sock puppets, but if I did, they would be ethical.
Yeah.
Someone needs to put that on a meme.
It's I don't know. It's one of those things where this is like kind of like what we were saying earlier, where it's like, what is going to convince Roger to sort of like stop doing what he's doing with all this stuff? And it's just like, I don't know. In his mind, like, this is the way the world works. You know, you just like, you start up an exchange, you pump some fake volume through it, hire a bunch of sock puppets, get as many people as you can over there and try and take their money. And, you know, it's real upsetting to see him doing this in like some really impoverished countries. So I really hope his ass gets nailed to a wall pretty soon.
Well, the one thing I've noticed since he's like, especially not only with the Bitcoin.com wallet stuff, but especially with this, is that more people who used to be buddy with him are calling him out, like Eric Voorhees. And I think one of the reasons that probably hasn't happened sooner is obviously because he invested in a lot of their companies very early on. And so it was like a conflict of interest that they didn't want to criticize him, even if they disagreed with him. But now that there's a, you know, potential legal liability attached to him, not only with this lawsuit, but also with this really sketchy ICO, they're like, okay, the train has left the station on that one. We cannot pretend to be friendly with you anymore just because you gave us a lot of money.
Yeah, it's gotten to that point where it's just like, okay, like, you know, everybody's trying to play that game, you know, until the point of where it's like things are starting to line up with regulation in these different countries. And I mean, it's definitely doing that. And it's like, he's just still playing these, I mean, to a point where it's destroying a lot of people's like value. I mean, like, really, I'm just getting upset just thinking again about, you know, these are like what people in India are not going to know like what they're doing when it's going to be the uneducated, and they're going to lose their money. And, it's people that probably barely had enough money to, get going in all this. I mean, like, sure, there's going to be some people that lost their money that just had it to lose, but you're definitely going to catch some innocence in there. And it's just getting sickening to watch him be able to do this thing.
But I mean, it's like, just gonna have to see what happens. I mean, as like I said, as much as like all the bullshit up till now has pissed me off, like to no degree that I can describe, like it's like that was all just, yes, you could put it down to opinion, but he crossed that line. Like he took a financial market ticker and used that to misrepresent what he was selling, or at least facilitating the sale of. And I mean, like, it's just, let's sit back and see what happens. I mean, there's really nothing else to do except just continuing to call out the bullshit and continuing to call out the lies. And I mean, it's like I'm really kind of sad. I know I poked Naomi Brockwell on Twitter yesterday to see if she'd be interested in coming on here and talking about all this stuff, and it just kind of seems like she ignored it. And it really just sucks, because it's like there are more rational, factual arguments than I can count to demonstrate like Roger lying, Roger being manipulative, but he just keeps approaching like non-technical, like libertarian people and just making his bullshit sales pitch with his nice guy face on. And like, just that impression is like, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to the counter arguments because those people seem like assholes. And it just sucks. I mean, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I really wish, like, like, I don't know, like, more people would be willing to come on with like maybe like a little bit of a varying opinion on the matter, just to sort of discuss it from a technical standpoint, because, I mean, like we're saying, I mean, it's really going down the dark deep end with all this. And, I certainly wouldn't want to be helping him do that in any which way. I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but I mean, it's one of those things where I would not participate in. Like, I wouldn't give Roger the platform if he, no, I don't know. It's, I mean, do come on the digest if we invite you on it. Please come on, talk about it. It'd be interesting to hear what others have to say.
But I mean, it's, it's like, this isn't just like tribal nonsense. It's like, when I first got into this space, I liked Roger. Like, I thought, oh, this guy makes a lot of sense. And then as the technical debates evolved, it was like, dude, like, you don't know what you're talking about. And like, same thing with Mr. Hoddle. Mr. Hoddle used to be a huge fan of Roger. And then as like he started talking more and more about like the technical roadmap and the actual science behind stuff, it's just like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. And it is far crossed the point of like him just not knowing what he's talking about. Like he's actively lying at this point. And it's like, I'm not going to just sit here and not call out a liar because like that's me, or whatever he continues to portray this to like elicit sympathy from other people.
Well, the thing I'm wondering, because he is such a financially well-off person, it just seems kind of weird as someone who is like Bitcoin and only Bitcoin. Why is he even involving himself with an ICO? It just seems like a really big risk, and I don't know. I don't think he's not that, when it comes to his reputation and who he associates with. I mean, yes, he is associating with, fake fraud Satoshi, but I mean, I really doubt that a sketchy Indian exchange like tricked him into being an advisor for them without there being some kind of extra incentive. And so it makes me wonder if he's in some kind of financial trouble, that he needs extra money or something, or what is it like? Is Bitcoin Cash being marketed by this Indian exchange?
Oh yeah.
Or what?
Yep.
Yeah, Bitcoin Cash is like the main, I guess, trading pair there.
Okay. So that's probably the only reason, but it just seems weird because so far I haven't seen himself involve his reputation with any ICOs. So that seems kind of weird.
Yeah, you're right about that. It is kind of like
outside of his own ICO, obviously.
Yeah, it is something where, it's like I don't know. It's like Roger just, I don't know. He's got that no problem with centralization thing, claiming he loves Bitcoin, so he just centralized everything, and try and get everybody to run on his system and move to Liberland 2.0, and the world will be happy, supposedly.
Oh God! I mean, just a quick note on Liberland. I don't know. It seems like not many people have read their founding documents, but I heard that there is some creepy line in it about how there's like a secret police, like an actual Liberland, in that I don't know where it is. I think it's near Czech Republic. They have some kind of clause in one of their founding legal documents that says that they have a secret police that can like have a lot of power to arrest people and everything, and it's just really creepy. Like, why would a tiny country that doesn't like how many? It's only like several square miles. It's not even a large amount of land, but apparently you need a secret police. It's like really creepy.
Yeah. It's it's not really a place I want to be, so I'll just stay over here and watch Roger spin down that hole.
So I guess, I don't know, any last thoughts to load up for the day before we call it quits?
Yes.
I
always have thoughts.
I don't have nothing to load up while you're posting all those. I'll go with my final thought is like, dude, it's beautiful here. Just like, man, if you haven't ever visited Colorado, come check out Colorado in May and June. It's like, I don't know. I'm not trying to like put people down that are going through some hard weather right now, but like after being here for a couple of years, I think May, June, July is like the prime months here in Colorado. So wherever you're at, get out there and enjoy it.
Yes, this last thought, I agree, Janine, and yes, you too, Rick. But yes, do what Hodl says. If you're not following Janine, you should be, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
That's not why that's not why I wanted to show it. I wanted to show it because I wanted to say thank you, Mr. Hodl, for getting like 150 people to follow me in the span of 2 hours and making my Twitter app blow up.
You deserve it.
On a side note, I appreciate it, and yeah. So, but yeah, thanks, Mr. I think the original tree. I don't know his real name, but he goes by Brand7. He made the original one, and then Mr. Hodl kind of amplified it, and then yeah, it was so funny. There was one reply that someone said, he was like, "Okay, I'll give her a trial follow."
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, thank you."
It's gonna get some legit info now.
All right. And next thought from Janine.
Yeah, this is just unrelated to Bitcoin. I just thought it was really funny. So there's a organization called Ranking Rights, which is housed at New America offices, which is funded by Google, and they did this corporate accountability index recently. And it listed Google as #1 in corporate accountability and privacy, which is pretty horrendous. So anytime you see anything that is praising Google above all other companies about how well they handle those two categories, you should probably look into where their funding is coming from. This is such a blatant, so many conflicts of interest. Basically, Google funded a report that said we are #1.
Brilliant.
I guess New America, #New America, @New America. It's not America, it's New America. It's some other America that I've never heard of. That, yeah, it's a weird America. I'm not going to participate in it. I'll be in Colorado where there's real America. Come on.
All right, Acnix, any last thoughts for the day?
Let's see. Yeah, Roger Ver getting sued. It's gonna be great. It's something to look forward to.
Hell yeah. It's gonna be a fun summer.
All right, and then Janine has one more before I slide mine in.
Yes, if you are in the London area at the beginning of May, you might want to check out the London Bitcoin Devs meetup because Chris Belker is going to be discussing Join Market. So that's really cool. You should definitely go there if you're in the area.
Mm-hmm. This guy is an underappreciated rocket scientist in this space. And I guess my last thought, and please, if you have not lost money using Bitcoin.com, do not fill this out. Do not spam this and give them a bunch of nonsense that doesn't qualify to sift through. But if you do, or if you know somebody who has lost money or been misled into purchasing Bitcoin Cash instead of Bitcoin by Bitcoin.com, there's Bitcoin.com lawsuit.info is a website set up for the lawsuit that Money Trigs is organizing. So you guys can go here and fill out your contact information to get pinged and be kept in touch with the details. But again, please, if you have not actually lost money, don't go in here and fill stuff up. You're just going to be giving them more information to keep track of that isn't really relevant to getting this rolling. So, all right. And I guess on that note, that's my final thought, if there's any rounders left.
Well, to be fair, Telegram is currently being attacked by the Russian government, apparently. So I don't know how easy it will be for people to join the Telegram group.
Thanks.
I also think we should show because on Friday we published a trailer for the Cypherpunk 101 interview series. And I think we should just show that because maybe people didn't. Yeah. We don't have to play it. I don't know if you want to play it or not.
Yeah, let's play it on the way out. You got sound though?
It's a coming.
The basic idea of coin shuffle is really simple.
Have you ever wondered about this particular thing?
They get paid a little bit of money every time you do it.
Because it turns out that thing is real.
So this spreading pattern looks kind of like a dandelion.
Right around like a record, baby, right around, round.
That thing I referred to earlier? Well, it's happening, and it will destroy us all.
Confidential transactions is blind the amounts.
Someone has to stop this thing.
Like a record, baby, right around.
And that someone is you.
You didn't think it would be that easy, did you?
I don't think I'm the one. I'm not the person who can stop this thing.
You are that person. Now take my hand!
For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I am the reaction.
Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be fun. Great trailer for sure.
So yeah, it's pretty much a I think 7 episode interview series by Deja, Nopara's girlfriend, interviewing a lot of people, a lot of really important people who've done a lot of hard work, and then me, regarding privacy in the space. And I guess we're going to be publishing one every Friday until we burn through all of them. But I think you guys will find these all really interesting. And I mean, personally, I think it's really cool that they even reached out to ask us to publish them on the channel. And so, the first one should be coming out this Friday, and I hope you guys will enjoy it. So unless there's any other last minute thoughts for me to load, I guess that's it for the day, guys.
I think so.
All right. Well, I guess toodaloo, and we'll see you guys next time.
Later, everyone.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Peace.